Hi guys, so I've gotten a few requests to do videos on how I plan out my travel itineraries. This is something that I have a lot of experience with because growing up I feel like my family always spent on travel specifically. So this is a value that's been instilled in me since I was a young girl. We would never spend really on other expensive things, like when we would go shopping. Like a lot of times my mom and I would go shopping at Kohl's, and if I would ask her for like a $20 t-shirt, she would be like, wow, that's so expensive, because the majority of my parents' money was spent on going away on vacation. And I do think that traveling is really important because, first of all, it's adventurous. You see something novel, you learn about different cultures. It's very exciting in that sense to always have a new horizon ahead of you. It just kind of broadens your life and makes you realize how everything depends on perspective. And that has stayed with me today. I still very much splurge on vacation over other things. And so today that's what I'm hoping to give you guys a little bit of insight into, how I plan out very joy-packed and hopefully at least slightly affordable vacations. So I have my laptop in front of me and I'm going to screen share sort of my process. So let's get started. First of all, picking a location. There is no shortage of inspiration of places to see, especially if you are looking at a lot of travel montages on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram. You're going to start getting more and more of those recommended to you. Also pay attention to where your friends are going. But if you want to do it in an affordable way, something that I would recommend is to go to Google Flights or other similar websites and set up alerts for low price tickets. If you don't know exactly where you want to travel, you just want to travel somewhere on a budget, just look from your local airport or airports, where and when are some affordable tickets that you can take. And when you're looking at flights and tickets in general, make sure you're using incognito, because otherwise there are going to be certain websites that mark up the price once you're looking at it a second time. So you don't want them to know that you're looking at it a second time. You want them to think that this is your first time looking at these websites. I would also look at the certain airlines that aren't in Google Flights. I believe in the US those are Southwest and Alaska. Maybe Alaska is on there, I can't really remember. And do try to look on there a few months ahead of when you want to go, because that's typically when it's the cheapest. Some other tips for making it affordable. This is something that I recently started doing, is having a travel fund. A high interest savings account. I use Marcus by Goldman Sachs. They have a 4.4% interest rate, but there are others out there as well. So what this means is that not only will they save the money, but they will also provide you 4.4 interest, which is quite high compared to what typical banks give you in this day and age. And so you're keeping up with inflation so that your money doesn't depreciate. You know, if you put it aside today and you want to go on vacation in 6 months, that money's going to be worth less than it was when you first put it in that account, unless you put it into a high yield savings account. And this can really alleviate the stress of feeling like, well, I want to go on this vacation, but I can't afford to right now, or I want to wait until I get my next paycheck. Because if you put aside some money in there every month or every couple months or whatever frequency you feel most comfortable with, then you don't really need to worry about that too much, because it's not like that money's coming out of a paycheck that you also need to use for other things. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind until you need to use it. And another affordability trick is to use credit card points for hotels and or car rentals. This is not something that I personally do. This is something my husband handles because he's better at picking hotels than I am. But if you use a credit card that has specific benefits, then they're going to give you a really nice selection of places to stay and also options for car rentals when you decide to travel somewhere. The trick here is that you have to actually pay your credit card on time for this to be worth it, because otherwise, if you are paying them interest over time, the points you're using cease to really be beneficial. You might as well just buy the hotel with your own money at that point. But if you are paying your credit card every month on time, then using those points is basically a win for you. And again, they usually have a really nice selection of places to stay. Places that I personally would never splurge on if it weren't on that credit card website where I no longer have to pay for it because I can just use points. You know, like I would never spend $300, $400 on a hotel room per night. but in using credit card points, in a way you do get to stay at that place without spending anything out of your pocket. Now, as for the fun part, this is the part that I handle, kind of like the mental load, like planning the itinerary. So I'm going to use an upcoming trip to Scotland as an example. So let's put Scotland. I'm going to Scotland in a few months, and I've already lived there, so I know a little bit about what there is there to see, but I wanted to also see some new parts as well. So I knew that I wanted to fly into Edinburgh. I'm going to put Edinburgh in Google Maps and then kind of zoom out and see what's in the area, what sorts of things stand out. And so when you hover over them, you can see the pictures of things and you can kind of get a sense of what you would like to see up close and personal. You can start looking at landmarks that look cool, and you can also start saving them to your Maps account. So for instance, if I wanted to save Edinburgh, I would click save in here and it would take me to sign in, and then I can add it to something called, let's say, Scotland trip or Scotland bucket list. And so once you start accumulating more and more of those little landmarks, you start to see where they cluster together, and you start to form in your mind a tentative schedule for which ones you want to see and what days. Other places to find these landmarks are on TripAdvisor, for instance. So if you know that you really want to go to Edinburgh, you can look up things to do in Edinburgh or best things to see in Edinburgh, and TripAdvisor will probably pop up with a bunch of suggestions, and you can see which one best fit what you want to do on vacation. And like I said, you can also use social media for inspiration. There is a hotel and restaurant that I found out about in Edinburgh called The Witchery that I saw on social media, and immediately I was like, what is this? I need to go to this stat. And I was so excited that I was able to book a table for when we go to Scotland. The hotel is definitely outside of our price point right now, but fingers crossed that one day I'll be able to stay at The Witchery. Okay, so you have your first point that you're going on this itinerary. And then you click directions and you put the second location that you want to see, maybe like day 2 of traveling, because I do like to keep it moving when I'm traveling. I like to see kind of new things every day, to mostly stay at different places, drive around. I like to see every little corner of a country when I'm visiting in it. So since I've lived in St. Andrews, I really want to go back and visit St. Andrews at least for like a lunch or something and walk around and bawl my eyes out. I know that's going to happen, so let's put St. Andrews next on here. And then the same day, I think I don't want to stay a night in St. Andrews. I also want to stop by Dundee because I've already stayed there as well. I think that would be nostalgic. That would be cute to do. And then from there, I wanted to see Glamis Castle. So I love to see castles, and they're not as readily visible on Google Maps. So I specifically had to Google best castles in Scotland, eliminate the ones I've already seen, eliminate the ones that don't look all that, cluster them on the map and see what day I want to incorporate them into the schedule. And then I also want to see Balmoral Castle. So this would be day 1. So we start at Edinburgh, stop by St. Andrews, Dundee, Glamis Castle, and Balmoral Castle, and then stay somewhere near Balmoral Castle. More on lodging in a moment. So day 1 is 3 hours and 42 minutes of driving, which sounds like a lot, but when you consider the fact that you're stopping in different places, it's not that bad. Okay, day 2. I want to stop by Inverness because I really liked it there. And I also want to see the Loch Ness and the Urquhart Castle. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. So that is day 2, and stay somewhere near there. Day 3, I want to go to Scone Palace. And since Perth is really near there, I've never been to Perth. I think I'll stop and have lunch in Perth. And then either stay there for the night or drive back to Edinburgh. So as you can see, that forms a little bit of like a circle where you're always seeing something new, and you are driving for quite a bit, but there are things to see in between these long drives that feel a little bit more restful and more exciting than just driving for 6 hours straight. So then you have 10 hours of driving, and you can click on the details to see the difference between each of the landmarks. So between Edinburgh and St. Andrews is 1.5 hours. So I marked that in my itinerary. Now by this point, I've gone into my notes app and I've transcribed all this itinerary into a day-by-day clean document. And there I include how long it's going to take to get from place to place. There I include where I'm going to have lunch, where I'm going to have dinner, where I'm going to have lodging, and roughly what time I want to leave and get places. Now, as for lodging, One thing you can do is that when you're in Google Maps, you can look up places to stay near blank and stuff will start to pop up. And again, you hover over it, you look at the photo, you see if you like it, you look at the price, see if it's affordable for you. You can also look on the Airbnb map. Sometimes Airbnb has more affordable stuff, or you can look on hotel websites like Expedia. Now, I would not recommend using Booking.com unless you really have to. And the reason for that is that some bot keeps trying to hack my Booking.com. I get emails every fucking day that somebody is trying to log into my account and to click this link if it was you. Don't know what to do about that. Clearly, they don't know my password. But I'm pretty sure Booking.com sells your information, so I would not create an account with them. There is a way to purchase something on Booking.com without logging in or without creating an account. So if you have to use Booking.com, do that. Again, also look at hotel points. So you want to be comparing all these different places, Airbnb, Google Maps, Expedia, credit card, to see which one is closest to where you want to be, which one is most affordable, and which one is nicest, and sort of balance things out based on those metrics. Also compare reviews and features, like if there's a place that has breakfast included, that means a lot because otherwise you have to add another however many euros or dollars on top of that. And so then you get the final product, the final itinerary that looks something like this. So you have on the map the itinerary of the whole week, and then you have it broken down by day and by time, where you're going to stay, how long it's going to take you to get from point to point, where you're going to have meals more or less, how much you have to do that day. And it just feels like there's so much to do, so much activity, and yet it's very organized. Yes, I'm very type A, so that is why I do the things I do. So I hope that this was helpful in getting you to have more joyful, jam-packed, fun, adventurous travel itineraries. If there's anything else you want me to make a video about, either related to books or either related to the cozy aspect of this channel, definitely let me know in the comments and I will try to do that. Take care.